What's the big idea?
All right. So
Hey.
we are here again with another episode of Volleyball. This is episode number 11, and this one is for the parents, right? Yeah. Questions through our Facebook, Volleyballogy, and our email, info@volleyballogy.org.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do the intro.
No, I was getting to it. But while we're at it, hi, my name is Zuby.
My name's Eric.
My name's Mitch.
And we are Volleyballogy.
Holy
shit. Just made that up. That's going to be a new tradition.
I did not participate in that.
It seemed like the natural progression.
That was the duet.
We thought you were right in.
Yeah.
No, you guys had it. You guys nailed it.
No, I thought that was like just the natural progression of where that intro has to. That's what we've been missing all this time. That's why the ratings are so low. That's what it is.
That's it.
Must be.
Mm-hmm.
So these are questions that we had come in to us directly, questions that have been asked in Facebook forums, and questions sent to us via Facebook as well. There are some pretty big volleyball groups on Facebook. One of the biggest ones out there is Volleyball Moms Facebook group. So shout out to that group because a lot of questions have been coming through there. Thanks to them for that. And so
I don't think we'll be able to get to them all, considering the ones that came into us especially. Mm-hmm. But, we're going to do our best. And if the ones that don't get answered, hey, maybe another time.
Yeah. Apologies if your question isn't answered now, but also you can, message us on Facebook too.
I just noticed Mitch has the goatee going on. I just noticed that.
Yeah. I was hoping you guys would have something for the Movember. I don't know if you did that on purpose.
Yeah, I did.
I did.
I have a beard.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't shave. No. It's got to be a mustache, though. Does goatee, I guess goatee kind of counts as participating in one?
Yeah, see, it's divided here.
Right.
Handlebars. Those are handlebars. Let's see.
That's right.
True.
See me? Show, the camera's on you now. You can look at the cameras. Yeah.
Mine definitely doesn't count. I'm
pretty sure that's dirt, and it was there last episode. Just kidding.
Couldn't be.
I'm just jealous.
Considering my facial routine.
I'm just jealous because I have to tattoo all my facial hair. This is just like that George Michael
every day.
That George Michael tattoo beard.
So for that time, are we keeping it?
Which time?
For
the month?
For the month.
So I'm not big on superficial gestures, as we talked about pre-show, about 1 month, and I kind of like I'm anti-cancer all year.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right.
Yeah, Zuby doesn't do sober
showing
October.
it.
Showing it?
It's a different thing. Yeah.
Why do I need to show people how I feel about cancer? Sorry, we shouldn't talk like this. I'm sorry, I'm very
getting nervous.
Canceled. We're gonna get canceled. We do charity. I do fundraising. We do fundraising events for it. But
it brings up topics like this. I mean,
yes, especially prostate. Yeah, especially prostate cancer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did the mustache thing a few times, but
I've done it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't actively do it anymore. I don't know why. I think it's just because my mustache is so big. Like when I smile, it's just like outrageously huge. I'm like, I just look like. But
you think so? I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah.
That's just one of those delusions we have about ourselves. We all have things that we hate about.
So I should do the mustache. You should too then.
You should do what you want.
All right, I'll do that.
You want to do the mustache.
Okay, well, let's get going. People say we ramble on too much, and you guys definitely ramble on too much. So I agree with them. Question number 1: why do you guys ramble on so much? No, question number 1. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this question, you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay. So whoever you have to phrase your answer in the form of a question. No, just kidding.
All right.
It's like Jeopardy.
Speed round.
Hands on buzzers. Meech, I said buzzers.
Oh, I can do it fast enough anyway.
Oh, sorry. I've heard that about you. Anyway, question number 1. Now, this might be a regional sort of answer, but the first question is, my child plays club volleyball, and I'm not sure if it's entirely necessary for them to play high school volleyball to get scouted or noticed at the next level. So is high school volleyball necessary as well as club, or club is one more important than the other? Do you have to do both, I guess, is the question.
What is no?
That is correct. Who are three people who have never been in my kitchen? Remember that? No.
Is that
Do you remember that,
Celebrity
Mitch?
Jeopardy?
Oh, that was from Jeopardy on Cheers, where Cliff Clavin was. He didn't know the answer to Final Jeopardy. He had all this money, had this huge lead, and so they said the answer was three famous people's names, and Cliff wrote, "Who are three people who have never been in my kitchen?" And then he protested because he said, "Well, Alex, that's true. There's three people who have never been." Anyway, so Meech said no. Do you want to elaborate on that? Is it necessary to do both?
It's not necessary to do both. It's a personal choice if you can handle it.
If the player wants to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What about the second part of the question, or the first part where they're talking about is one more important for being scouted by the next level, depending on, where do you think post-secondary teams find their players, I guess?
My experience, and it's not going to be everyone's experience, but club is, where you're going to be a lot more likely to well, I guess maybe in the development of the player, that would be the best one to go with, because high school is usually the one that doesn't take precedence. High school is basically, I had frustration with my high school team on times because it just wasn't the level that I wanted it to be. Club was always the level, but high school is where your friends are. So
yeah,
but
and then there's the regional exception on top of that. I'm assuming, not to say you're wrong, but and also the situational, like maybe the parent or the kid might know that, like, hey, maybe this high school has a crazy, amazing volleyball team. So it could be better. And also, I guess, back to the first part of the question, can they play both? Well, hopefully both seasons don't overlap. And if they do overlap, then, I mean, it comes down to how much time does the kid have? How much time does the parent have to facilitate this? Like, can they play both? If they can, then go for it. And then maybe there's going to be overlap and you're going to have to compromise. And then there's a whole process on maybe just go to, if there's a big high school tournament, make sure you can be there for that one, and then vice versa for the club. But I agree. Like, high school may by default be the less important one, but there might be some situations where it is, or maybe you have like a wicked high school coach or something, so regardless of the whole scouting thing, like, because I guess that gives it away right there. If they're worrying about being recruited, that means they're already in their latter years of their youth volleyball, so they're 16, 17 or something. So I guess that's the point where you can, if volleyball is something that the kid is really passionate about and they want to pursue, then for sure you can kind of take that into consideration, but don't forget about the whole development process, because they're still learning at that age. Of course, I mean, they're still learning the sport until they're 40 or whatever. But
so what's the answer, Eric?
We're figuring out. There is no definitive answer.
No, there is no answer. I think that's a good answer.
I'll give you this, especially for you, Eric. Which did you discover first? High school or club?
I guess it was club, because I first learned volleyball in middle school. Okay. And then it led to, so it would have been club.
And then you discovered the high school game.
Yeah, and for me,
school first. I mean, you were introduced to volleyball in school.
In school,
you just weren't in high school yet.
Yeah, and that's probably the way most people are going to be exposed to it, right? Because that's the good thing about schools. They show you everything.
So basically, in my point of view, is because I discovered high school volleyball first and then club. Basically, why would you, unless you're moving up a level and then you're good enough for club, why would you go from club to high school?
Right. And
their
but
progression.
I think what we're both agreeing upon is that it's whatever team is your higher level one, assumedly the scouts would be scouting those teams.
Yeah.
Why would they? Right. And I just think there may be some situations where the high school team, for whatever reason, is actually better than the club team. And again, you would assume that the smart scouts would be going there. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they just out of laziness, they're just like, oh, we're just going to go to all these club tournaments this year. So that there's a problem there. Is like, and how do you know? This is something I don't know anything about, but how do you know where the scouts go? So that's a whole. Maybe if there's an older sibling, they've kind of gone through the process, or maybe you have a coach or an assistant coach who's gone through the process, who's a former varsity player, and then they would know a little bit. They'd be like, oh yeah, I know these schools, major schools, they tend to recruit at these tournaments or whatever at these national levels, because there's national tournaments, there's just regional ones, it's probably a lot of work and research. Like you need to figure out, and it's going to depend on where you are. But yeah, I would think that obviously the scouts would go to where the better volleyball is, but that's assuming every scout is
I think the only
doing their research.
In the States, it's pretty much through the high schools that the post-secondaries look to come and get their players, because it's more of an organized system, whereas the club world,
make it easier for the scouts.
It makes it easier for scouts because it's a more centralized system. So sadly in the U.S., and don't forget too, club is, again, we're talking about, a highly regional experience, but high school in the States, again, it varies from region to region, but the high school teams are much more serious than they are in our neck of the woods. Mm-hmm. So our high school volleyball in our area is gonzo. Like it used to be pretty great, but it's luck of the draw. If you get a great coach, you're going to have a decent team. And if that coach is, smart enough and tricky enough to get kids to come to the school, which happens still, but the drop off in high school volleyball in our area is huge. Bottom line is in the States, if you are, I think personally, like what Eric said too, and you got to play as many places as you can without burning out. I highly recommend both. And in the States, they do a better job of not overlapping. Their club season is much shorter than it is where we are. So I think play both because more touches is better. And then for getting scouted, it's mostly because it's so big in the U.S. that the high school network is the easiest place for the post-secondary scouts to grab those players. So that tends to be where they go. If you can do both, do both. But you have to be mindful of burnout.
Yeah. High school coaches get paid to coach, right?
Again, so different. Varies from place to place.
Club coaches do as well, but the variance of pay is probably greater on the club side in the U.S. than it is like for a high school volleyball coach in the U.S. It's probably a pretty standardized fee. Well,
yeah. And if you think about it, so it's so population dense that if you think about it, so let's suppose you have a huge population area, like bigger than we can even imagine, let's say.
It just makes it easy. It's like,
what I was going to say was like, if it's, they might all be scattered among 6 or 7 different clubs, but the high school, the big high school might be the place where they all have to compete for those spots. Yeah. So you'll hear stories on social media, even like in other parts of the world, where like these great players on their club team don't make their high school team. So that's sort of the opposite of what it is in our experience. So because they're all bringing all these high level players together. So I think that's where that's why the high schools are still technically the place where most of the scouting gets done, because it seems to be like the community hub for great volleyball where they all come in together. And that's, there's rules in the States. We talked about this before, where there's a lot of states and regions where you can't be a club coach and coach a high school team. They don't allow it. Yeah. Because of the nasty games and coaches favoring their own club players on the high school team, or not picking players for rival. Like that's I think that sort of feeds that idea that the high school is the hub if you were going to pick one. But I think in this day and age, you better play both. Because if you're not getting reps for that chunk of time while those other people are playing club and you're just doing high school.
You can definitely play both.
Yeah, and I think most places you can. The only thing you got to be mindful of is burnout in kids and injury, which comes up later in the show. So, so high school and club necessary. It's not necessary, but it's good if you can do it. If your kid is up for it, definitely play both.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. That was pretty fast. That was one. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Speaking of which, okay, so a lot of parents, this comes up quite a bit. My child is wanting to quit volleyball. One question was about the child wants to play beach, another one was just wants to quit volleyball or sit out a season. How would you handle that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Again, no.
Beach would not allow it.
No, I wouldn't allow it. Not my kid.
I don't have kids.
No, but hypothetical.
I know.
Cyber kid.
Well, I mean, why? Why do you think they may want to be skipping out? Like, what's the cue here? Like, if again, all I can do is relate back to my own childhood. If I wanted to skip out, I never skipped out on a year of any sport that I was in until I was fully done with it, which was like hockey. Mm-hmm. So, like, when I played soccer every summer. When I played hockey, I played it every year. I mean, if the kid was to go to like some international school or school in a different state or province or whatever, like, I mean, actually, you can still play the sport just in that different area, but to completely pull away from a sport, I would just, maybe there's something going on. Who knows? Maybe they got bullied.
So find out why.
Yeah, find out why. find out why, and then
maybe they have a summer job that you don't know about.
Damn. yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Secret life, double life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that Meech, any thoughts on that? If your kid came to you and wanted to quit a sport, any sport or volleyball, what would you think? Is that okay? Take a year off, I guess, is the question. Maybe not quit, take a year off.
I would say definitely it's up to them, but when it comes to volleyball, why?
So Meech is taking the denial approach.
It's up to them, but no.
Exactly.
It's up to you, but no.
Because beach really is a different sport. Mm-hmm. Indoor has its own aspects to it, and they can all combine together nicely as long as you're not wearing yourself out. But it's two different sports. It teaches different skills. I say the more volleyball, the better.
So you would not allow your child to quit, is what you're saying?
Never.
Maybe there's different ways for them to participate in the sport as well. Like, if they were, I guess most of the time it's like a club, so there's a season and it's all tournaments, but maybe you can join like a rec league instead and experience the game in a different, again, maybe it was too serious, so then if you step it down and you just play in a league, especially together with your kid, maybe like we've seen parents and kids do that, then it can be more fun, something like that. Or if they can get into those fun fours leagues you organized, they could do that with some of their other friends.
Specifically my fours league.
Those are fun.
No, just kidding.
Well,
come on up from Albuquerque.
Yeah, but if they're like, because those leagues are
Shameless
sweet,
plugs.
right? Like there's no refs, and it's like there's no coaches. It's really
There's no net.
There's no net.
There's no ball.
No,
we just take people's money.
They have a blast.
Yeah, it's great. Invisible. We call it invisible. Invisible.
Lots of tanning.
Because you ideally you don't want your kid to miss out on a season of volleyball. Like maybe if they're more of an indoor player and they want to take a season off of beach, but even then I would be like, because like what you were saying, the two just synergize so well. And I don't think I can't see, sport is so, if they've been playing the sport for years, they clearly love it and they must have been having fun on some level. So if all of a sudden now they want to take a break, I feel like there's got to be something going on there that's outside of the sport itself. It's not like, it's like, oh, you know what, like my forearms, they just really started hurting now after forearm passing the ball. Like it's not real. Like, so like what's going on? Or maybe like there's all these random like scenarios. Maybe they injure themselves. They don't want to tell you about it. I can't imagine a kid doing that, but you never know. Or maybe they're afraid of the expectations you're putting on them as a parent. Like there's just a whole bunch of shit.
Like Amici.
I could see something.
You can quit sports, but not volleyball. Yeah.
I could see something being in the combination of maybe the seasons are aligned too closely. Like when the day that they come off the beach,
Yeah.
they're coming into their volleyball. Maybe they need that rest for injuries or
And that's a legit.
anything. Yeah.
That's a legit concern.
That's
And
legit.
So
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter why they want to quit. I think if your kid wants to quit, then you let them quit. The only thing I would say is that if you take a year off in this day and age, you're not going to come back in. That's all I'd say. And so you go think about this, and you decide, because quitting in this day and age means that you're going to quit formal volleyball, but you can play, like you mentioned, you can play volleyball anywhere else. There's tons of organizations that offer community volleyball, and you can do that the rest of your life. But my advice to parents personally would be, if your kid tells you they want to quit, find out why, of course. Like Eric was saying, it could be something not related to the game. Could be something social. Could be something like we talked about in our mental health episode, right? Could be something to do with someone else's treatment of them. Could be a coaching issue. Could be something horrible. Like, you don't know, right? Like, what if there's something abuse or something, you know? So you find out why, you discuss it. But if it's about, if they mention things like not wanting to play, not enjoying the game, it's feeling like work, then you have to respect that, because you won't make them want it, right? Yeah. It's impossible to make someone want something, right, if they don't want it themselves. And honestly, if you have concerns about how, you know, them going on to serious level volleyball or post-secondary or professional down the road, which comes up later in the questions, part of that is not wanting to quit. You know what I mean? And that's telling you something, right? There is a filter. The desire to play a lot is one of the major filters. Right? Like, you got to be a little crazy to go at it as much as we have in our lives, for as long as we have. And then there's even another level of crazy, right? That we talk about, you know, the Michael Jordans, the Kobes, the Karches. That is a whole different level of commitment. So I think, you got to find out why. And if it is related to playing, if it is related to not enjoying the sport, or if it is related to like burnout, stress symptoms, listen for those cues. And then you got to respect the kid. But one thing you have to make clear is that it's not the type of sport where you can come back after a year off. Unless you're doing something like playing community organizations. And even then it's a little tricky. Because the amount of growth and development that happens now, and that might be why they want to quit. Because it's like this weird, crazy race among people that's kind of bizarre, you know?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, like that's the kind of the unknown gray zone. It's like you ask them why, you can't get but that, like, there's too much pressure or fear missing out, or, you know, keeping up with everyone else. And
I think the number one thing I see of all the parents and people that we work with and coaches and through coaching and working with clubs is that most kids want to quit because the parent wants it more than the kid. And, you know, that goes back to we talked about that parent episode where, you know, the insecure parent who maybe never achieved much in sports desperately wants their child to be a jock or some sort of athlete. And the kid is being the one punished for the parent's insecurity. Just like the coach's insecurity punishes kids. You know, like if the parent wants, like I know some parents who put their kids in like clinic after clinic, like 13 years old. And I literally saw it where a kid didn't want to play at age like 14 because, and I told my kids, like, you watch, that kid's going to quit because that parent wants that way more than that kid. They're dragging that kid along everywhere. And the kid said, I'm not doing this right now. Didn't play beach for a whole summer. Luckily it was just a summer. It wasn't the whole club year, but the parent had to back off. And I remember like, cause even that kid was like we knew them quite well, and we were like, oh, they're not playing. Yeah, they're taking a little break right now. But I knew, I didn't pry. I knew why. It's because the parent was pushing the kid way too hard. The kid loved volleyball too. That's the thing. But the parent can kill it for the kid.
It's such an obvious opposing reaction. I feel like the kids just be like to push back like that. That would have been me. I would have done that.
That's why you. Well, that's why you just gotta. Well, it was just too much. Like physically too much. The kid was in every weight training program. The kid was in every event. The kid was in every clinic. It was just way too much. You know, and that's not how it happened. Because, again, I had the benefit, and we had the benefit of growing up in a different time, and we saw that the love is organic, and then the passion comes after the love. Right? Too many parents try to force the love by doing it too much. You know what I mean? And it's hard to enjoy it once somebody makes it feel like work. It's like I always compare it to like reading. So young kids, before they hit school, they love reading. They can't stop reading. And then the day the teacher says, "Okay, read 4 pages tonight and write about it. Answer these questions tomorrow," then the kid's like, "Oh, now you just made it like work."
Because that's a connection. from that.
Yeah. So the joy is killed, right? There's a joy, like the joy of discovering and doing something for passion is now gone, and it's become a labor, and it's become forced, and you can't enjoy that. That's why parents, I always tell them, back off, let your kid go through it. Even I catch myself, if I'm talking too much about my kid, like how they, if they ask now, I do it. And if they don't want to play, I don't push them, because I'm like, you got to love it. And usually they come back to it because you stop pushing, by the way, or you find it if they love it. Right. So even if your plan is to get them to play, back off. And if they don't come back to play, then that's your sign that they didn't love it.
You're just kind of advising them of what may happen if they do.
Yes, just the warning in case it is something, that maybe can be worked around. Like if it's not that burnout related thing, what if it isn't a coach or something else that can be remedied, maybe right with a meeting or something, or a teammate or something. But let them know that, yes, you're probably not going to come back to it if you quit. And if that's okay, but you, as a parent, you should be okay with this.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. Like, again, for all the parents that want their kids to go pro, just understand that one, we're going to talk about pro is not what you think it is. Right? It's a crappy life to go pro. It's not like fun or glamorous for like 99% of volleyball players. It's just like basically being broke. And two,
I mean, it's fun. That's why they do it.
It's fun, but sometimes it's not fun. Like, I mean, it's
well, the sport remains fun. It's the rest of life and how
but the sport, like the practices become like 2 a day,
right,
like
right.
on they cut it down to 1 practice a day on game day. Throwing up on it's not.
You're right.
Because it's what I'm talking.
I've heard a lot of horror.
It makes it like work. It makes it like work. Yeah. Like when I remember, like in South America when I was playing, like we would have 2 a day practices, and we were throwing up in practice. And back then, that was like good coaching. And then they're like, okay, we'll just have 1 practice on game days. I'm like, what if my isn't that? I think you're supposed to play, but that was the hard.
This is how militaristic
and toughing it. We got to catch up to Europe, and we're falling behind, whatever. But so it's really hard. I think whenever you make it like work, whether you're a coach or a player, you got to keep it fun. Or sorry, parent. And if a kid wants to quit, bit of a red flag.
Right.
Sound good? Meech, are you okay with that answer?
Sounds good.
I don't think you are. I think you.
No, I agree.
So you changed your answer. You're not going to force your child to play. My talk word.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely force my kid to play. Definitely. It's my kid.
Yeah,
no one took.
That's right.
He's like, fuck off. It's my kid. I made this thing. Okay, I made it with my own.
Every parent, that's why you have kids, right?
Love juice. Anyway, too graphic. Yeah. Okay, so Meech will still do it. Love juice.
I'm ready for the next.
I'll edit this out. Okay, so what about if you're with a club? This came up a couple days ago. So a parent, this is kind of I think a shitty scenario, unfair, but I'll let you guys talk about it. Club changes. So the club has tryouts. Parent and player commit to tryouts, commit to the team. And then the club publishes the practice times, and they are starting way too early, like at 5 p.m., which is, when most people are just getting off work. So they schedule their practice, and they didn't tell the parents the practice times. And I'm assuming that those practice times were different than the tryout times. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean,
or advice for that parent?
I feel like if I was a parent, that would have been part of. I only would have taken the kid to those club tryouts had I have known the practice schedule. Because
would you assume that it was at the tryout times?
Maybe if as a first year in the club world, I would have made that mistake once.
Yes,
and then that would have been it for that. But it sucks because now you either have to make some major changes, or it's not even possible because some jobs don't it'll be impossible to. And then you have to pull out of the team or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you?
And you already signed a contract, or you might be on the hook for the money.
Is
there any advice for that? What would you think about the club that did that?
Well, it's super shitty because it's if it's one thing I would have wanted is to know the practice schedule, and then you're not gonna disclose it, and then I'm gonna be like, okay, my daughter really likes playing here. Maybe we'll gamble it. Maybe they'll run it at the same time as tryouts, which is 7 to 9. And it turns out she loves the team. She gets on it, and all of a sudden it's 5 to 7. it would definitely change my mind for next year. I would try to do whatever I can. Maybe my family can help, like get her there, and then or something like that.
And then pick them.
Yeah.
You would pick them up at a different time.
Yeah. Do whatever you can, right? But and then maybe in that process of, you know, kind of shifting things, now you've now made a new system for next year. When you go back, that you'll actually be able to do the whole 5 to 7 thing again, even though you're unable to because of your job. But again, like I think like my grandparents drove me to practices all the time because I was lucky enough to have them around to do that, right? Because that sucks, because especially if my daughter, like or whatever,
or son,
kid I don't
Could be a
have,
son.
or son, yeah, they love the team, and especially if it's a great coach, like I would end up trying to do as many things, sacrifice whatever I could to get them there.
I think the real
Except
problem
my
is
own
like,
sanity. I wouldn't sacrifice my own sanity.
to me, I think that's a little bit of a sneaky I think the club, like if they had tryouts at a different time and never public, because you would just assume that it's like 6 to 8 or 7 to 9, like whatever the tryouts were. I'm assuming that's what this parent was talking about, that must have not been right, because that would be your first
5
question.
is weird.
So there's a little bit on the parent here. Like a parent has to do some research, right? Ask the club. But if you are trying out consistently at a different time and then they tell you later, that seems like a little bit of fuckery, sneaky, shady shit. So you wouldn't go to some other club that had better practice times, right?
It'd be hilarious though, because if all of a sudden every parent was like, "Well, no one can make 5," and then like no one made 5.
But that goes back to, remember we talked about that in our good parent.
Like one kid shows up for practice.
But remember we talked about that, where parents don't have any self-esteem to do that. They feel like the club has all the power. I mean, in that scenario, realistically, all parents should maybe get together at the first practice and say, "Hey," get those other parents to say, "Can we ask for a different time here?" Like even if it's like, you know, you could switch with another. I don't know. I know gym time is like very difficult, but then you need to tell parents that at the beginning. As someone who is an organizer myself, like, could you imagine if we organized an event or league and never told people the start time, and we're like, "Oh, it starts at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday." Like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah,
and it's
what I mean.
shitty, right? So, I think that tells you a lot about that club personally. If they hid that from you, a little bit on the parent, because you got to ask that question.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if they had reasonable times on tryouts, I think everybody would assume. I would never assume that a club was starting like, can you imagine 5 p.m.? Like, you're literally just getting off your job at that time, most people.
Yeah.
So that's like so shitty, I think. So I would tell you, like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And that club's showing you some stuff. Yes, you might need to work on some stuff or tell your coach that you're going to be late, but I wouldn't go back to that club, because that's an ethical thing, personally. Meech?
Yep. Just imagining, you know, in that same scenario, I think most coaches would want to have their players show up, especially when it comes to being maybe half the team.
Yep.
They're going to basically, a good coach would ask, "Hey, go approach the parents and say, and the players and say, hey, can we run practices at this time? If it's a conflict, they got to make the adjustments. I mean, the coach, and say, hey, this is the best time. Let's run it then, and we can make adjustments for other parents that, you know, are not able to bring.
Yeah. And even to make it less combative, like, you know, I'm kind of an activist. I get really angry over things like this, but you could actually organize that first night and say, is there a carpool thing we could set up? You know, is there a kind of group of parents pick people? I mean, but that's that's assuming other parents can do it. But I think maybe the best thing is like a combination. Like maybe the coach could say, we'll start at 5:30, run an hour and a half, and maybe have a carpool situation. 'Cause even 5:30s are like, we never start programming. I would never ever start a program earlier than 6.
Well, yeah,
6 is pushing it, right?
When do kids even get out of high school? Because they have to go home and eat.
That's true too.
And like chill out for a minute.
And some kids still get it at 3:30.
Yeah,
in a lot of places. Like it's not always 2:30 or. So yeah, no, I think it's a weird. Either way, it's a bad thing that the club did, I think, and it messes everybody up. And it should have been disclosed. That's full disclosure is always better. And if you're afraid to tell them because well, then nobody will sign with us. Well, then that's maybe you shouldn't be running the club team then, because you didn't get your gym time sorted out. Yeah. Right? Like you could even shorten all your practices to an hour and a half. That's what I would do in that case. Shorten them all to an hour and a half, and then that way you probably save an hour. Then you could start at 6. You know what I mean? If you bump enough practices down to 15 minutes even.
Right.
So I don't know. There's lots of. I think the club that shows lack of organization, and bad stuff.
I just have a general observation. It was actually pretty cool, like playing, finally like playing varsity, because it was the first time I ever got to experience practicing volleyball like in the middle of the day, because it was either always at like 6:30 a.m. or it was like at 8 p.m.
That's not the middle of the day.
No.
You mean at decent hours?
What?
6 a.m. or 8 p.m.?
You didn't. I said the only time I had previously experienced it.
Oh, so in university you practice in the middle of the day?
Yeah, we had some.
We only had them in the evening.
No, some of them we
mornings.
had at
Sorry,
like
mornings
4
and
p.m. or like we even had.
Wow.
Yeah,
Lucky.
it was kind of crazy, and I thought it was kind of awesome because, I mean, we're all at different peaks of wakefulness and like
Right.
stuff like that. Mind you, a lot of the game schedules was always they'd varied. Some of them. I guess the majority were evening games. But some of them were on the weekends. They were not evening. They were like late afternoon, like 3
This is
p.m.
This is more recent varsity stuff?
No, even the
even
even the later
recent?
stuff.
Wow,
Yeah,
you're
like no,
lucky.
actually no. It was the earlier varsity stuff where we would practice in the middle of the day.
Wow.
Yeah, and then and again, some people like it didn't work for everyone's schedule, so you had to make compromises with your academic schedule and this.
Oh boy, that's really tough.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, but I mean, it's probably why I failed at a lot of classes. But but it was I kind of like liked it because like being able to practice at like 2 p.m. or something. I forget what it was exactly, but like you're in a different state of wakefulness, right? You're almost more.
It's almost like the best time.
Yeah, you're like caffeine loaded and stuff, so like you're pretty like so
not exhausted, not early morning, late night. Yeah, no
Yeah,
crashing
right?
yet.
Because then playing years of getting used to like evening practices, I think that's part of the reason why I am such a like a night hawk or whatever. Now I have to shift my like for my job now. I have to get up super early, but like we would finish a game at like 10:30 p.m. It takes you like at least first you have to like clean up, get showered, blah blah, like hang out, like say thank you to your family and all that. Then you get home, then you got to unwind and then you're actually probably hungry, and then you're eating some food, and then you got to unwind, and you go to bed by like 1 a.m. or something, right? And then you have to get up for class the next day, so like kind of really wonks your.
So this parent should.
Sorry, total, yeah, nothing.
Sorry,
I got
just
nothing to say.
Just
I was
kidding.
just trying to figure out what like it's weird. Like when is the best time to practice?
And you were saying you started that by saying that maybe it's not even optimal for them because they may be not even eating enough. Like they would be super rushed after school. I think.
Yeah. I can see it being.
You need
bad
a
at
little
5
bit of a
p.m.
gap there.
Like I guess it's ideally, in my opinion, it would be they go to school, they get back, they can do some of their homework or whatever. They have dinner. I don't know about you guys. I would think the best time to practice would be like between 7 and 9, or like 6
it's
and
all
8.
So it's so hard to get gym time. So I know people watching this or hearing this are gonna be like, "Oh, but you can't get gym time," and I agree with that.
That's
I know
why
the struggle of gym time probably
I'm
better than
speaking
anybody watching this.
idealistically.
Yeah, I run an organization for 20 years, and people watching this are like sometimes they put in the comments like we're not being mindful of gym expenses. Like if I don't know what that is, but we know what that is. I live and breathe that. But the problem is, I would never not disclose. Like if I'm having people sign up for something, I would always tell them before they sign up, here is when we are running. I don't spring an unreasonable start time on people, and that's what happened here. I think that's kind of weird. So I would tend to stay away from that club, because whether they did it maliciously or out of disorganization, that's a sign that they're not very good at what they do. Either way, whether it's in malintent or sneaky or incompetence, you don't tell someone.
Yeah.
And again, I'm assuming this parent who's writing this, the tryout times must not have been at 5 p.m. because that would be you wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have made those. Yeah. So sneaky, I think bad practice, sign of a bad club. Right? Mm-hmm. Next.
Yeah.
Right.
Meets, did you get to say all you wanted to there?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Some parents asked us, why do so many professional or high-level volleyball players tape up their fingers? Meet, you want to start off with this?
Well, let's go with maybe the obvious or not so obvious. It's to prevent injury.
Prevent injury, right?
Yeah.
Some people think it's because of an injury, and it can be.
Right.
But Meech, what do you? How can tape help prevent an injury?
I used to use that a lot, especially when I was playing high school. But basically, it helps. I guess I would say stiffen your fingers, right? Mm-hmm. It makes it more resilient. It makes it a little bit less likely to get injured. Depending on maybe if you had some injuries or if you want to improve an area, taping is a fantastic way to just make your hands stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch out for mobility issues when you're hitting the ball or setting the ball. But if you do it regularly, then you can get used to anything.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so the idea sort of is like you can lock the joint, right, with tape, so it can't bend awkwardly.
Yes.
So if you have an injury, it's great. And 2, it prevents some injury. And then there's a way you can, even when people tape their fingers together, Eric, right? Why do people tape their fingers together? You ever seen that?
I don't know. Well, I think I used to do that. So yeah, like exactly. It's dealing with injury, to prevent injury, and then when you're playing with injury. And some people, I think, can use it as a way of sensory feedback in a way. The double finger taping, I have seen that before.
I've never done that.
Yeah, I never have either, but I think some people do it to almost like a splint.
Yeah,
it's
that's
your
the
other
only thing I
finger
can
is
think of.
splinting and protecting an injured finger.
Just allows you to keep playing. Assuming you're probably not the setter. That would be kind of weird. Or maybe maybe setters are, good enough that they can.
Yeah, I've seen some setters tape injuries, but I don't think setters tape the way blockers tape.
Yeah.
Right, like number one reason for it is
so
the blocking.
The main cause of the reason to tape is from blocking.
It's funny that we take that for granted, eh?
Yeah.
Like we would forget to say that.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Because we all just know. We all just
sorry.
know that. No, I'm the same way. So I just realized, we better talk. Because we're all picturing a blocker.
Yeah.
That's right. Did you ever do any?
I never did. I had to when I had an injured finger and I had to tape it. It was in a splint. I had to tape it, and I played for a little while with that. And I think I had a thumb once. I had to tape, but I the only time. So I did recently, like in my older age, I remember a couple times where I would block, and in my pushing my hands over towards the hitter, I would get jammed. And I remember coming down once after a block and looking down, and I thought my hands were cramping, but both my fingers had bent, like this. Like the swan finger, they call it. That tendon here where your finger goes down. Meech, you can do it naturally, but that thing. I can do a little bit. But yeah, see, Meech can do this.
This is from
Nike.
years of playing. So
yeah, Meech is... No, straighten out your fingers, Meech, because people are going to think that's the way your hands look. Meech can do...
I can't. I literally can't.
No.
I play the piano still. I do painting.
That's so hardcore.
Yeah,
I've had to adjust.
No. Meech. So there's Meech's hands, but he can do that. That was his circuit. That was his party trick when we were kids. Meech could do that.
You could always do that?
I could only do it with this finger, and I used to think it was so cool, and people would think that was so cool that I could do the slight thing that you can't even see on camera. But then Meech came along, and I was tossed to the curb.
Call it the Loch.
I've resented him ever since.
Loch Ness Monster fingers.
Loch Ness Monster doesn't have any fingers.
Swan. That's not Swan.
No. Swan finger is the name of the injury, Eric. It's called swan finger. Is when there's two different. So I had that. So mine, there was like a dip, like the tendon was ripped. So my finger would dip in the middle and then curve at the top, so it was dipping at the front and in the middle here. So it was like from getting hit right on the end of the hands. And then the only way I could fix it, because it would have stayed like that for life. But they sell these cool things that you can wear. These do you remember me playing with them? Fairly recent, like 5-6 years ago, I would wear maybe with COVID in there, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. But there's these plastic things that so it holds your finger this way, and then you put another one.
Finger traps.
Yeah, Oral-B sell. I mean, I don't know, a little shameless plug, but they're not a sponsor. Nobody sponsors.
Oral-B, a dental company.
Yeah, Oral-B, the health company, I guess, and they sell these finger things that splints. They're a type of splint that you can wear in the shower. You can wear them. They're waterproof. They're not like the fabric ones. Anyway, that saved my finger, and I gave them to my mother-in-law. Actually, because she had arthritis. Their hands look like Meech's all the time. And Meech's joke fingers. Meech's party fingers. Party fingers sounds weird. Right. But and they straighten out your hands. So people with arthritis. I know people are somebody probably wants that. But Oral-B, if you look up Oral-B splints on on the internet, on the interweb, you'll see that on the computer, you'll see that things, and they come in a set of different sized, and they're like rings. But they have so they'll support the bottom.
Looks like a little sleeve.
Yeah, some people have the finger dip at the top. Like I had that, and I had the side. Like I don't know if it's related to it or not, but it means a dip in the middle of the fingers. So I had them on a couple fingers, and it straightened out my hands. I could play with them too. So I was playing with them without not tape, but those things.
Yeah.
Pass everything. If I had to take them off for 2 seconds to wash up or shower, fine. So yeah, those were that was I forgot. Yeah, I didn't use tape, but I used those things. Right. But yeah, blockers get jammed. Yeah, that happened to me twice, like fairly quick succession.
I think mostly for me, I had to tape up my thumbs. The thumb is what got it the worst. and that was pretty nasty to deal with. It's like this part here, right? So like
From
taping
blocking?
Yeah, from blocking, yeah. And taping it was like, because you have to like go around here and then around the whole hand and then here and then hand and then, you know what I mean? So it's like taping is kind of awkward. But
taping is an art too.
yeah, well, you get better at it the more you do. That's a good thing. And then
watching a trainer do it is fun.
Yeah.
I used to try to get injured just to watch them.
Oh, yeah? And then you can watch them do it once and then you can like do it yourself and then.
Me, not so much. I'm never good at that stuff.
Taping, I got used to taping ankles
Yeah.
pretty well. You know, you put that like foam stuff down first, and then you do like the one line that goes like down the side of your shin,
Right.
under the heel, and then up the other side. You do a few of those, and then you do the cross pattern, and then you do the heel one again, and then you tape it all up. Yeah, I did it
That's
a bunch of
good.
times.
Yeah, to yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to just have basically the two longest fingers, the middle finger and the index, where it basically prevented it from jamming. It was almost impossible to jam it once
Like a
I
knuckle.
held it in that position. Yeah.
Huh. Hey,
I should probably play with those things on again, by the way. I forgot. Like, once my Achilles tendon injury, if I ever play again. My
on your fingers?
I should wear those things again, yeah, because I had a couple jam fingers I forgot from blocking.
Or
When
you
I
should
used to block.
You should just block better.
Well, I mean, I got both points, so
Oh.
I did block the ball. It's just, I think the problem was I was too high, so
Oh, yeah.
that's another thing.
Well, should we talk about why sometimes we get jammed fingers when we block?
Well, the question was, why do people tape their fingers? So,
All right.
Yeah,
We're not
because we could talk all day about this stuff, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
So they tape for protection. It can be prevention. It could be an injury. I think it's like sometimes we'll talk about ankle braces later, but I think sometimes players do it for show.
I think so.
I just said it. I think some players want to look like their favorite players, and
I know from experience.
because you did it for that reason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Every now and then I would say, you know what?
You want to look the part.
I want to look.
Yeah, I think we all do that. Yeah, for sure we do that. Yeah. Thanks for being honest. That's very good. It's nice to know that you're a shallow piece of shit. Okay. Just kidding.
Have you guys ever had it when you hit a ball, like if after like a game or something, your like nail bed kind of separates from your nail on the tip of your finger?
No,
It's usually like my index or middle
from a
finger.
mishit
No,
or just
no,
hitting?
just from hitting a lot.
Huh.
I've had it a few times where like that part of my finger hurts really badly. So I'm guessing maybe if you see a player with tape right on the tip of their finger, it could be from that. I don't know what it is. I think it's just from the snapping and then the sudden deceleration and then
I don't think I hit the way I don't think I snapped as much as I should have.
I don't know what caused it, but it's happening. Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe you're really good at snapping over the ball.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's happened to me, but or I just have bad skin.
I was more of a tipper. That was my favorite when Mitra and I were young and we were out somewhere. People were like, "Hey, you guys play volleyball?" Like at a club or something. We're like, "Yeah, I play a lot of volleyball too." Remember this, Mitra? And you're like, "Oh, what position do you play?" You remember, Mitra?
Yes.
What was the answer? What was the answer?
Oh, I'm tipper.
No, you're forgetting.
Well,
Remind me.
Spiker. Remember, they all say, "I was spiker. I'm a hitter. I'm a hitter." I'm like, "Oh, so you sound like you play a lot. You're a hitter."
spiker, I love it.
You're a hitter.
Well, everyone says that whenever I tell them I play volleyball, that's the first thing they say. Oh, so you're a spiker? Like this literally happened to me last week, actually.
I hate it.
Volleyball's not that well known, is it?
No, it's not. Or like that's the quickest way to find out if you're ever if you ever parents. Here's a great. If you're ever dealing with a coach who tells you they played a lot, and just say, what position did you play? And then if they say things like setter, okay, they could get away with that.
Yeah.
But if they say like, "Oh, I was a hitter,"
Run.
or listen to the listen to how they answer that question, because if they use the wrong terminology,
Well, yeah.
because they won't say outside hitter, they won't say middle blocker, they'll say,
bum,
"I was a hitter, I was a spiker."
That won't happen.
What?
A coach doing that.
So listen, my kids are playing high school volleyball right now.
From
And
a
their-
pro spiker,
And
former
their
pro spiker.
their coach tells them, "Oh yeah, I played varsity. And there is no, you know what? He spent them teaching. He said he wants them to practice hitting with their wrong hand, like going up like a fake, like they're gonna hit it with their one hand and then hit it with the wrong hand. And they're like, why would we Why don't we hit it with the best hand? And then I
won't be
met
ready
him.
for it.
I met him, and I was like, oh, thanks for very grateful that he's coaching, right? But then he's like, oh yeah, I played a lot too. Yeah, I'm like, oh yes, I've heard. Yes.
How are you ever going to develop for injuries
What?
without hitting with the wrong hand?
Yeah,
It
I mean, it's
balances
just,
the body
why
out,
would
yeah.
you? So you want me to take my weakest weapon and use it more often? Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that when your main one becomes injured, then
Not injured. That would be if you were injured, sure, become a lefty or become whatever you want. But no, guys, you know the strong hand. You know the hand that gets all the points. Here, I have an idea. What is it? We never use it. What? Never. The strong hand. Never. Should we use the weak hand? Yes, more often.
I don't know, man. Pete's got a pretty nasty left-handed spike.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some players do it. Well, Madison McKibben, the McKibben brothers, he became a lefty out of an injury. He's a right-handed player,
crazy.
taught himself how to swing left-handed. And my kid was working on that too.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's fine with developing the hand, but not like, not as a strategy. Like, hey.
No,
anyway,
I know what you meant.
Yeah.
but man, when you're just doing the wrong hand, man, is that funny?
Oh God. There's nothing
So hard.
There's nothing more humbling than trying to attack a volleyball with the
Left hands
wrong hand. It is the worst. Like if you want to feel like you suck at anything, do anything. Get dressed. You ever try to get dressed with the different leg through the pant leg first? Have you ever tried that? Try to consciously do. I've been doing it now because people
step with
watching.
the
I
left
am.
first.
I'm doing this show in pain because I have a torn Achilles tendon, which is brutal. But so I've been getting ready, and I noticed catching myself putting on the wrong pant leg first, and just freezing for about a good 40 seconds after putting on the first leg because I'm not sure how to go after. This is all weird. So
Wrong order.
yeah, just try it one day. It's good mental training for you.
Anyway,
or
let's
go
do
to the
the-
bathroom. Go to the bathroom in the kitchen sink. There's another one. Very
What?
different. Very weird feeling.
Now we have to get on to the next.
Oh my
this is
God.
getting.
And I mean number 2. Okay, so how many clubs?
Wrong.
Here's a good
wrong.
one. Here's a good one for parents. This is tryout time. It's wrapping up for a lot of parents. Some parents much earlier, depending on where you're listening. How many clubs should we try out for? How many club teams is it useful to try out for or good to try out for? Not all at once.
Well, the recommended daily allowance for club tryouts is,
Good for it.
it's
Just make up a number.
I'd say a lot is 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say 1 or 2, and then 4 is probably a lot.
Yeah.
Some smuggus RDA.
Why? Why, Eric?
Well, because it's just that's a crazy amount of time. That's a crazy week. So if certainly it's probably true in each region, all club tryouts are happening at the exact same time within the same month. So that's just wild to go to 4. But there certainly may be reason is because go to club tryout number 1 and it's just holy crap, crazy coach. Number 2.
Right.
It's too far, right? But let's try. Well, you probably do the farther distance ones as 3 and 4, maybe. I don't know how you prioritize. Yeah,
Depends on when they happen. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and then for whatever reason, those 2, and then you want to try the 3rd, and then finally, it's we have some friends from high school who play on this club.
Why are you inventing all these scenarios?
I don't know. I'm just inventing scenarios.
My brother Larry's down for the weekend.
Yeah,
he loves
yeah,
volleyball, so we're gonna try out on
You
a
asked me to
Thursday.
answer the question.
No, but the why. I think you were saying that the why was that you're trying out the different quality of the club. Like you said, the coach might be crappy here.
Yeah.
So you're testing the waters. You're dipping your toe.
Do you want to answer the question? Why don't you just say it? I don't understand.
No, but I just like the specific scenario.
Oh, okay.
You were just like-
So why? What is your answer?
so
Xavier?
I would say that you just like you said it.
Have you ever gone to club tryouts?
No, I've never.
Oh, no.
never gone. No, I think that you just want to. Your parents need to have more self-esteem in the process and understand that. I think the club is auditioning as much as your child is. I like to think of the club as trying out too. So I like to go to different club team tryouts just to get your kid more reps, because during tryout season it really sucks if you are, well, first of all, like a lot of parents say they want to be loyal to clubs, like, oh, I want to be loyal to clubs, but that club will throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. Trust me, as you get older, like I've seen kids that they're all crushed when they don't make the club team that they thought loved them because someone better came along. So keep that in mind.
That's brutal.
Well, it's not brutal. It's like, if the club team is there, like, they'll...
Not the club, but the parent being...
Oh, gotcha, yes,
diehard.
gotcha, yeah. It can be brutal, though, if the club's not. But you don't want them to be loyal. You want them to pick the best players. That's good. But the idea is that, one club might just give you a different vibe, right? And that different... Even if you love the club, what if the coach one year gives you a different vibe? So you go try another one. And also, through the beauty of going to 2 or 3 or 4, as many as you can, scheduling-wise, is that your kid stays sharp. Because you don't want to have, like, a tryout here, a tryout 4 days later or something, or a week later, depending on their gym availability. And, all the other kids have been going to tryouts. So I have no problem with a kid using a tryout to stay sharp. But also, if they're serious about the club, like some parents know they're already on a club team and they still go to other tryouts, I think that's a little bit weird. Like if they've
like
already
the
got
pre-signed thing?
guaranteed spot, yeah. I don't think they should necessarily, although... Maybe, maybe they should.
If they don't necessarily want to ultimately be there, then they should try other opportunities.
You mean, so if they've already accepted a spot, do you think they should go to another club tryout?
Not if they've already... Well... What?
Accepted is...
Yeah.
Ooh, what if they were in that pre-signed situation?
Yeah,
Remember
that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry, that like if they're guaranteed pre-signed. So that was another question, by the way, that sort of came up that we didn't put on here, but it is. I remember from the group too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it okay to go to other tryouts if your kid's already accepted a spot? It's sort of the same question, but
can the club dump them even if they pre-sign?
Well, that's it. I've heard of that happening
that
too,
was,
right?
That was in there.
Yes,
that question.
that was in there. That was a different question, but I remember that question too.
Yeah,
that clubs would like, and it's connected to what I said too about they'll throw you under the bus.
Yeah,
you think you have a guaranteed spot, so maybe you're right. You should go.
That's another one of the ugly reasons. Maybe we never went over that of that situation of this pre-signing stuff. It's just not healthy for the sport.
No. It's in our good coach, bad coach episode, I think. Or is it also in our...
I think we went over it again.
Something else more in depth, yeah. We talk about the danger of pre-sign. Oh, maybe it's the mindset show.
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes away the player's mindset of being aggressive and in fight mode if they know they have a guaranteed spot. And also the coach, those great players who may have shown... Like, somebody works their butt out.
Isn't that an interesting mindset in general, though? Because people... This is likely applied not just here in this volleyball scenario, but even people's relationships in general. They'll be with someone, but they'll always keep in mind, like, oh, I'm holding out a part of myself for somewhere else. If something better comes along, I'll just leave and
Eric,
go to it or something.
Eric, what are you talking about?
No, like, is it?
Are we stirring up something here?
No, that's what.
No, I know what you mean.
This is what this is possibly fueling, is that like it's like, oh, okay, we've got this.
It's hedging your bets.
Yeah, let's go check out something else.
Safety
and if it's better, like it just creates this very toxic.
Is it toxic though?
Well,
or is it in your best interests?
It is in your best interest, but this pre-signing thing makes it. That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
makes it toxic.
yes.
Because you've undercut the drive. Yeah. So, Negative feedback.
Yeah, no, again, if people want to go back watch that, we go into depth about the problem with pre-signings and how it's not even sports anymore. If kids know they're guaranteed and some kid works their butt off all summer and gets really good and then they don't get to even get a spot or even try out because the team's full. Guaranteed signings. But so we would say, so I think we're all in agreement that we should go to as many tryouts as possible. Try out the team, see what kid. It's almost like buying a house, right? Like you wouldn't pick, we wouldn't go to one town, one neighborhood. You should probably push yourself to check other neighborhoods.
Do as many as you can.
Yeah, get as many as you can.
It'd be a tough week.
I think it's good for your kid.
2 weeks? How many weeks do they go over?
Yeah, it could be 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, but it is good to get as many as you can. I mean, of course, this matters if your kid loves it. By the way, too, right? Like, don't you again going back to that earlier question? Don't you be the one dragging your kid around? Ask them if they want to try out for this team, want to try out for that team. Do you want to play this much? Is that too much? Be mindful of that stuff. And if they're all gung-ho and gangbusters, then go for it. I think we all agree.
No.
I agree.
It's just being difficult.
I would say that I think 3 is probably your max, because then the decisions start to complicate themselves, especially when you're trying to fine tune which opportunities are best. So if you do your research ahead of time, you do the 3 tryouts, you decide, hey, is it this one, my top 3? You eliminate a team, or you eliminate 2 teams in that. And you didn't pick 2 of those other choices. So I think 3 is enough.
Yeah, 3's good. And like sometimes, like, the other thing that pops into this question that complicates things is sometimes you have your heart set on 3, and then you find out that one of those clubs doesn't even have a team, or they've already picked all their players. And you're like, what?
Right.
So yeah, this year I think we went to 1, 2, maybe 3. I think we went to 3 or 4, but that was because one of the clubs didn't have a team. So I think we found out that one of the clubs didn't have a team. This is like 18, so it's like a year where a lot of players are gone. So yeah, but that was just, at every place you just like, oh, like that coach a lot, don't like that coach. Oh, like that club, don't like that club. So
Yeah.
I think if parents treat it like a tryout for the club, then that's kind of cool, because it can that'll dictate how many you want to go to as well, right? How happy your kid is. Like, don't stay with a toxic club.
Do you think it comes down to the choice is a balanced choice? Because we've got, you've got coach, you've got club, you've got the team, team being how well your kid fits in with the other kids, right? And then you've got, so like these 3 main things: coach, club, the team.
Yep.
So like if the coach is top level coach, but the other 2 aspects suck. Like, I guess it's just such a dynamic
the
thing.
question of what's
like,
most important.
Yeah,
that question comes up a lot too.
Yeah, like what do you do? Are you looking for the one that's the most balanced across the board, or are you going to go with the best? I think we can all agree you don't go to the best club. And I mean, by the best club, I just mean they're maybe the best
track
price,
record, or
yeah. No, I mean things like price and like location. They're close by. The practice hours, I would like gym times and stuff like that. But they don't have the best coach, and maybe your kid is new on the team that doesn't know the team that well. But that's also not a bad thing. So then, it's.
Yeah, I honestly think that the number one thing, honestly, because of the length of season, and especially club season can be very long depending on where you are. And for some seasons, some club seasons are like 10 months, 8 months. And some places are like 5 or 6 months. But either way, it's a lot of time and energy. I think, honestly, I put super high precedent on. Well, we talked about this before. Like, touches are huge. If you can get if your kid's gonna get a lot of touches, that's great.
I put that under coach.
I think coach is number 1.
Yeah,
coach is number 1, because coach means not just X's and O's and resume. It doesn't mean wins. What it means is knowledge. And emphasis on development,
and how that coach is going to develop you basically as a player.
Yeah, everybody. Like if that coach is benching kids, or if that coach is a screamer, that's not a good sign. And I always emphasize coach. So if the coach is, great resume, great reputation in the area, I would lean that way, because that generally means they're not crazy. But it's weird too, because some parents have great opinions of coaches for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
They have a great opinion because that coach is really tough and that coach wins a lot. And then there's kids that never play. That's why that coach wins. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to gauge success, because success doesn't mean, like, I could be a coach that just plays my top 6 or 7 all the time, and then you could win a lot that way, right? Like, we've all played or coached on teams like that, where that team can win a lot at young ages. But the real coach that's really actually developing players is the one who plays everybody over the course of the season. They all get better by the end, and they all stay in the game, and they all would play for that person again, right? Whereas the one who wins might have half the team hate his guts, half the parents hate his guts or her guts, because they're focused on the wrong things. And then those 6 parents go, oh, that coach is great. And then the other 6 parents think that coach is toxic. But but they're right. The coaches that think that coach is toxic are right. They might be wrong. I mean, they might be right for the wrong reasons. It might be because of their own sensitivities and insecurities about their own kid. But they are right, and the mindset is wrong. In youth volleyball, not pro, not even varsity, but in youth volleyball, it's wrong to like want to win a medal overdeveloping everybody and making them love the sport, and all these people walking around saying, "Oh, but it's competitive sports. It's competitive sports." It's competitive by your margin, by your gauge, because you haven't played a higher level. It's not competitive. It's keeping kids in the game. And if I tell them all the time too, like you're gonna win if you're a tryouts parent and you see a coach that doesn't understand that the team that wins at the end is the one that has the most players prepared. Bottom line, forget it. I don't care how hardcore of a winner you are. The team that has all 12 players ready to go at the end of the season and into the game and believe that they have a shot to play and believe in themselves, they're a better team than the team that's just had 6 of them coddling them, treating them like champions. And in my definition, they would say that I'm coddling by wanting to play everybody. But in reality, they're the ones who are coddling the top 6 and making their lives easy. We talked about hard parenting in one of the episodes we did. Good parenting. The harder thing is to do the right thing. And so you want to find a coach in tryouts. If you find a coach who has that mindset, like I can tell you I think I mentioned this story. Did I tell you that one where we had a coach this year that was just, I saw him coach last year against our kids' team. And I said to my daughter, like, that coach, I could tell by the way they were playing and how everybody was playing and the energy. I was like,
we were talking about
we want to try that team next year.
Yeah.
That coach, if he's moving up with this age group, you want, it turns out he was the club director. So my daughter went to try it with that club this year. And he said, he went up to her, took her aside and said, listen, that team is filled, the team that she was going out for. But but she was trying out for the older team and there was a younger team she could have played on. But he said, he took her aside and said, listen, this team is you're too good for this older team.
Yeah.
But he said, I'm going to send you to a try. I want you to try for a friend of mine who's coaching a high level team and they need players. Another club. Like this guy talking about, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? This guy was trying to help out a friend of his coaching another club, rival club. And then he texted us a follow-up to see, hey, did you go to that tryout? And I told him you're coming. And it was amazing. And it was wow. And I texted him saying, we knew, I saw you play. I said, I play high level. I saw you coaching last year. And you're the reason we went to that club. And you're proving that right now, how great you are in this follow-up. And so he totally set it up to try out the other. And Mina went there and a kid had a great tryout there. And we ultimately didn't pick that club, but because of she wanted to play with her friends, which was, again, that want thing. So, but that coach, that's how and my instinct after seeing the way his team played as a team, and the way they were that short team, by the way, that were dominating. We talked about it as a short team that was underestimated, was beating everybody because this coach had positional. He knew that he could teach these players stuff. And in that try, it was awesome. And the fact that what coach says to a player, he's the club director.
Yeah.
And he says, listen, I can tell you're too good for this team. He didn't say, we want that kid on this team, because he knew she wouldn't develop, right? He could have won more with that player on the team, but he didn't do it. So that's what you want, is a coach who understands their role in the game. And I knew this guy was a high-level player. And I tell by the way he stood on the sidelines, by the way he coached, his demeanor was calm. He didn't freak out over this guy clearly played at a high level, maybe even overseas. And he, because he had that perspective.
Yeah.
That's what you want. All the best coaches I've ever seen or worked with or had mentored me a bit, were very calm demeanor, right?
Yep.
The best coaches you've had, calm demeanor, understood in practice. That's where the work is done. Game time. That actually comes up as another question later on. But sorry, we're way far into that.
We're far.
But that's what you want as a coach. If you can see that in a coach, that's why it's worth going to a few different gyms, because coach is most important thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do.
Uniform color.
You mentioned
the kids that.
What?
The kids would say uniform color.
Oh,
that's the most important.
The most important thing is
sleeves.
Yeah.
You mentioned a bunch of really good things there though. I agree. Coach is definitely the most important, but also when the coach doesn't pick up on the right things, and then the parents start to just basically parrot what the coach is saying. Oh, great job on that, or oh, not so good. I just played a tournament on the weekend, and there was a club team there, and the coach was there, and the coach was being giving positive feedback for the wrong thing. The set was inside, but the setter still got to it and was able to set the ball, and or an ugly tip over the net on a 2-ball, but it happened to get the point because the other team just wasn't prepared for it, because who does that?
Yes.
time and place, right?
Praising the wrong things.
Praising the wrong things, right? And so, and I can see that. So parents like just hopefully try to.
But you have to be a knowledgeable parent. That's the problem.
You do, and you don't, because it is. You do and you don't. Like, it is a sport. The sport has a simple purpose of getting points and beating the other team, of making the ball touch their side of the court. So that's where the catch can be, because that sneaky little 2-ball thing can be clever against teams that are unstructured and still developing. However, it's not the long term. It's not the long term goal. You want to try to get the 3, the bumps at spike or whatever, right? So it was just so funny to see that. So yeah, as a parent, try to evaluate, try to not fall into that.
It's really. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I had 3 things I wanted to say. Like, that was coach is really important, but also we never talked about this, but you mentioned the team that is more fully developed, the entire team are more likely to win at the end of the team, because the bench support is huge. And I don't think we've really hit on that yet, though, because like it feels great to be the starter to be the representative of your team on the court, knowing that your teammates on the bench kind of have your back, right? Mm-hmm. Because I don't know, it's an advantage.
You're in it together.
You've been grinding with them. You've been competing with them in practice, right? Like, that's the hard work. Now you're out on the court and you can almost like, you get to be the one, like taking on the challenges, and your team has your back. So again, and you're less worried about mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen. That way you're not dwelling on them. You're not worried about when you go back to the service line about making a serving error. Mm-hmm. You're in the zone. You're going to go after that serve or whatever, right? And then, sorry, the last thing I wanted to mention was, unless you want to say anything about that, but was we were prioritizing coach, the club, and then the team, right? And so if coach is most important, would you think the team is a second? Because what determines how much fun your kid is going to have? Because if the coach is super important, having fun is super important. And I think the other kids on the team are a huge factor in determining how much fun you're going to have. Yeah. Because the coach isn't really there. They shouldn't be there to make the game fun. They shouldn't be cracking jokes with the kids, and like, there's fun drills you can do, but it's not it's the drill that gives opportunity for the kids to like mess around and have fun together. The coach isn't, you know what I mean? But
I still say that everything you listed there, that support of the bench, the coach, and that front, like who the kids are still the coach. Remember we talked about that like in the culture episode, like the coach can dictate.
I'm still putting coach as number 1.
No, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying that, like, just going back to the fun thing, like, kids don't have fun. Remember we talked about this, where like, if the rules are different for other kids, that's how you get the toxic vibe on a team. It's the coach's lack of consequence that dictates how, like, even that kid on the bench, let's suppose the coach, like, the bench player hates your guts, probably fostered by a coach who hasn't given the kid a fair rep, or a belief, even in practice, giving them an opportunity to get on the other side of the net and be with the starters once in a while, or get them into those blowout games.
Good point, because what kind of kids already have grudges?
It's only because I've seen it, right? It's honestly because I've been around the club world so much, where I've just seen that every toxic team is only caused, and the teams that love each other, and even like, in high school, our teams, like, we had really close-knit teams, and it was because it just instinctively we had good teachers and coaches who weren't even necessarily volleyball people, but they were good coaches. Like, they coached or played high level other sports. That works, right? Because they knew, like, we never felt, we used to tease each other about not starting, and he'd make jokes about, oh, you're not starting now, Zooey, I'm going to start someone else. And it was like a running joke. And then the next time I would start, and then it was, I mean, he, in fairness, he was lucky because we were a balanced team. Yeah. But I don't think he ever did the benching. Remember we talked about the story where one player didn't touch the court. He didn't bench people. Everybody felt like they were part of that team, and that was because of the coach. The coach made that's why it was so fun. Yeah. And if you had the wrong coach, like earlier we had other coaches who would bench players, and it was that some of those players wanted to quit. They weren't having fun. They probably were resentful of the people playing ahead of them, right? So I really think the coach dictates so much, and that's why it's so hard to find a good coach, right? Like,
Because all kids would. I can't imagine any kid holding a grudge and being against having fun. Like, as long as the environment is provided for, like, by the coach.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Because
I think the two, if coaches are listening, or parents, if you want something to look for in those multiple tryouts that you go to, a coach that understands that every player needs to feel hope. I think that's it, right? Nobody wants to be on a team where they feel like they're never going to get a fair shot, never getting respected, and not contributing to the team. So a coach's job is to really make sure that players feel like they are contributing and they are useful and that they will get an opportunity. Everybody in life wants opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. They're not expecting fairness, I don't think. I don't think everybody's expecting equal pay time. I think they're looking for the possibility to show what they can do in opportunities. And I think that, so if parents can look for that in a club team, treat the club team like they are auditioning for you, I think that'll go a long way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So bottom line, parents should try for as many club teams as they can, and as much as the kid wants to, as long as your child wants to try out that much, go for as many as you can. It never hurts. And hopefully you'll start to see some trends and habits in the coaching and the culture of the team and all that stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So believe it or not, we've done 6 questions. 6 questions.
6 questions.
Yes.
Wow, it's more than I thought.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know these that's not a lot really, because we've talked for quite a bit, but we'll do one more for this episode, and then we'll wrap. We'll probably have to do a second part because we got a lot of questions here.
Yeah.
Because people love what we have to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. So the last one we'll do today in this episode is about recovery tips, not recovering tips, which is a volleyball joke, but recovery tips, or tips for recovery.
I never tip.
No.
My coach taught me that.
Never tip. Like in restaurants, you mean, right?
No, always tip in restaurants.
Oh, do you? Okay, sorry.
It's never on the volleyball court. Never.
Yes,
ever.
yes.
Ever.
Never tip.
Tip.
Never. So for recovery tips, though, this is so for players. Parents were asking about specifically if they have back-to-back tournaments or 2-day tournaments, or they have a practice with their school team, and then the next day they have a tournament with their club team, or vice versa. Some recovery tips. I think you guys said that I could go first this time, right?
Yeah.
So because I am old and I get injured a lot, so as an older player, I think that not enough. I think young players should start to look to older players for advice, because older players are always injured. And they're trying to, like last summer, I was able to play back-to-back nights. I had shoulder surgery when I was 29, and it's very difficult to play back-to-back days for me ever since that time. So, but I started to tap into some old world knowledge, which is becoming new info. And we're going to put together some info for parents too, for this training and stuff. But I did saunas and cold water or cold pool or ice baths or cold showers.
In which order do you think is best?
So, well, they say that you should actually end with the cold. So I've heard that you don't want to you want your body to do the heating up of the body. So ending with cold is great. Even if you don't have a sauna, you can just do cold showers and cold baths. I found the recovery was amazing. I was able to play back-to-back nights. First time in years I could swing full back-to-back nights. And swinging full for me is still horrible swinging. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that was the first time I was shocked. I was 46 last summer, right? And so to do it back-to-back nights was pretty crazy. And honestly, the regiment was I came back home from playing. I would stretch, cool down, probably not as much as I should have, but I would do the hot and cold. So I would go into I'd shower off, cold water shower, go into the pool, and then let the sauna heat. I had a sauna, but I bought that because, again, old age. Like, it's just I was worth the investment for me to walk, and I was having some other leg problems that were pretty significant in the last couple of years. So
how would you go about like showers? You're diving into a cold shower, or do you moderate it according to?
So what I do first is I take off all my clothes.
Yes.
I know that's what Amici was wanting to hear. That's what America wants to hear. Yes, everybody, guilty as charged. A shower in the nude. I'm a pervert. No. So I would come home. You do the cold water shower outside anyway, like a hosed shower, right? So it's no heat. It's very cold. And then I would use that basically to clean off the sand because this was beach volleyball.
Okay.
And then I would crank up the sauna let it heat up. And then I would go into the pool, rinse off, go into the sauna, sit there and as long as I could for maybe 15, 20 minutes on a nice high temperature, close, upper 90s for me. That's not as high as some people can go way hotter than that. And then I would jump in the pool, and the pool was turned down quite low.
You can even stretch while you're in the sauna. That's
yes.
another sweet thing.
Yeah.
And
my clothes are on by this point, by the way. I do put on a bathing suit, splinters and whatnot. And then I would jump in the pool to really so that was my ice bath. So the pool was turned down cool. So it's not a real ice bath. Like a real ice bath. Eric's done real ice baths, and I want to get to the point where I can do real ice baths. But what I would do is shock my system. The goal is to shock the system. So if you can shock your body, like leg elevations, we talked about draining lactic acid.
We didn't really talk about it.
No, sorry, but I mean, we will. We will talk about it.
Yeah.
But that's so I found the hot cold therapy, and we didn't talk about that in the mental health one, but it's a good one for
huge
for mental and physical health. Like it shocks your system.
Yeah, both hot and cold.
And that's old world stuff, right? Like it's old world ideas are coming back.
It is,
and we're gonna help introduce that to the volleyball community soon.
And we would always do that when we play beach anyways. It just makes sense. Like it's just the thing to do. Like beach is beside a large body of water, or even a small one, but here where we are, huge lakes, and they're always super cold all year round. So you play beach and then do a cool down and stretch first. You may as well don't just run right into the cold shower or something. You can't. You're not going to have a cold ice bath.
Is the shock good though, Eric? Is the shock? Well, sometimes people say the shock is good, but I don't know.
I know the shock is good, and I'll say why. But I would just take that opportunity to just stretch the muscle out.
One more tool, right?
Yeah, and again, mostly in my experience, but I'm the most whenever I go to do a stretch right after playing or after doing weights or anything, that's when I'm the most flexible. Have you guys ever noticed that?
You're warm. Yeah.
Yeah, you get off the elliptical or whatever, and you go to do a forward fold, and you can grab way further than your toes. So I think that's the best time to stretch.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I think it's a few things in that because I think a lot of the resistance we feel when we stretch is just that cellular protective mechanism, that it's our nerves. It's not that we don't have the mobility. I think the mobility is there. It's just a safety in place that's no, we're not going to let you, because you could risk hurting yourself because these muscles are not warm.
Yeah, so I think the heat helps expand and loosen things up too, right?
Yeah,
just the basic thing.
Absolutely. And I think I would just cool down and stretch first. And the cool down is just a low pace. It's like a lower level warm up. And then just do nice sweeping rotations of the shoulder, and do some instead of doing your dynamic stretches, which is what you would do for the warm up, with higher breath rate, you're going to do the opposite, because the whole point of the warm-up is you're going to be breathing faster. You want to get your internal body temperature up. You want to get those muscles. So more dynamic stretches, when you're holding the pole and you're just kicking your leg forward and backward, stuff like that. And then the cool down is just the opposite. So it's you're going to slow your body down, hold that stretch a little bit longer. Yes, that's why. Yeah. I wish I did the cool down more, because it's bad, but the thing is, the older we get, the more likely we are to do it, because we're living with more pain. And if we want to play the next day, or sorry, not even that,
if you want to function,
if you want to function the next day and play 4 days later, you have to. So so the cool down and the stretch, and then get into the hot and cold. And I think there's something to do with the shock of, there's got to be the cells getting squeezed, squeezed and then heating up and then stretching out. There's got to be blood flow.
I always think of the ice bath. I always tell people the ice bath is like an ice pack for your whole body. And it's so if you can do a quick amount of time, and then what it's replicating is almost movement again, right?
Yeah,
that's what the ice pack does to an ankle. Like when I had my Achilles injury, I know that the day that I had some soreness, so you put the ice on for 10 minutes, get rid of it, and that's replicating movement, right? The congealing of blood or slowing of blood, and then it goes gangbusters. So if you go heat and cold, you're replicating movement when it can't. If your body's sore or injured, it can't move, so you have to replicate movement to get scar tissue out.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I find that for me, the ice pack going from that sauna into the pool was and it was awful feeling a little. I mean, sort of awful, but but you kind of get addicted to it.
Yeah.
And then your next day is crazy. Like the fact that I could play the next day at 46,
Yeah.
to me was nuts. And it fixed a lot. I still think the ice and heat fixed like even some circulation issues I was having in my legs from, I don't know if it was stress or sitting. I switched from a walking around job to a stationary job. And I was in a chair a lot and driving a lot for business. And I found that, so I was jumping and getting leg numbness. And even that issue mixed with the training. So I started bringing in some exercises that we'll share with parents too in booklet form. And young players, man, if young players can tap into some of this stuff, wow, secret weapons, right?
Yeah.
Seriously. Like I wish, like, if you go back to 25 and you're trying this stuff, or like even in your teen years.
But wait, that's just it. Like, would your 25-year-old self even listen
Feel
to
the
this?
need.
Yeah,
Feel the
yeah.
need.
That's the thing. It's like you have cheat codes at that age. Even
Yeah.
at age 25, it's all gain with
Pain is the necessity,
with no cost.
like you said. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, like you can you just go, right? Like
But
I mean, especially if you have your 25-year-old self coming back, one, you're gonna be like, what is my 25-year-old self doing in front of me? Two, you're gonna listen.
time machine.
Yeah.
There would be the weirdness of that. The time
Once you
machine
get
part.
over that,
Once you get
then-
past that.
So Meech is talking like if we're not saying it's really going to happen. This isn't Back to the Future.
Oh well, why not?
No. But like so when you're what Eric is like so Meech, if you were 25, you were pretty good about stretching at a young age. We used to mock Amici for his lengthy stretching routines, and
That's good.
Yeah, but he had it right. But yeah, I mean, if a young athlete does this stuff, I mean, they just have to understand that they're going to have such an edge because it's not about like just feeling soreness. It's about you don't know that your ability to perform the next day is hampered. Fact.
Yeah.
It's drained. You're like we're all batteries, right? This is why we sleep. This is why we eat. Like I always think of ourselves as video game characters, and like that little bar at the top of Street Fighter where your energy level is dropping. You're literally a battery, and if a battery isn't recharged, then it's not going to perform as well. So if it has a lot of energy expended the day one, second day better have some. So if young players who don't even feel the pain can get into this routine, that's what I mean by secret weapon. You won't know why you're fresher than other people. You won't know why you're jumping a couple inches higher than the other players, but it's because these little tidbits and mixed with some of the training tools that again, old world training tools that are coming back now. And parents, if you're listening, like we will be coming out with some great little cheap guides for parents. I mean, literally secret weapons.
Well, we need to add a few more things because I think the food that you're eating the entire day leading up and the days before, because so you play the sport and then you cool down and stretch. And why do we recommend cool down and stretching is because volleyball, like any sport, is a side dominated thing. So especially your chest muscles and front delts, they're going to get very tight. Therefore, stretch it out the opposing way because as you keep playing, in my experiences, like this keeps getting tighter, right? So that's why I would recommend stretching that out. Do your cool down, then stretch that out. But then the hot and cold gets into something different. The hot and cold isn't giving you mobility, but I think what it's doing this movement of blood flow. So having good food in you is going to mean that you have a supply of, protein, nutrient, all this stuff, and the hot and cold is going to get that nutrient back into the muscle. I think I was reading about it. I can't quote anything, but like
no, it
I'm
makes
pretty
sense.
sure
Like if you have bad stuff floating around your system, then even the effectiveness of the hot and cold and the stretching is not circulating good stuff.
Hampered.
Right? Yeah. It's not even sending the best stuff in.
However, again, kids are just phenomenal.
Yes, they are better.
They can eat
Recovery
garbage.
experts.
Yeah, they
Yes,
can eat
the
garbage
system.
and turn it into gold, right? Or it seems like gold. But again, what you're saying
It's
is
gotta be
imagine they did it in the optimal way, right?
And there are people doing it.
And there are.
Like, let's face it, like even at the youth levels, there are kids that have had access to this information and they're getting it.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that tend to be the high performers.
Yeah.
Right. Not only do
That'd be
they
nuts.
do the sport more, but then that means they're meeting the right coaches and kind of like what we're hoping to do with this show is get this advice out to more
And they're building
people
that discipline
who don't have the money to get this info too.
Right.
Yeah. So
right.
and then because I've seen the kids, I've seen the ones that have just made that decision to go all in, and nutrition, exercise, recovery, and traveling.
That would be wild.
Year round. Like I'm talking like in where we live. We have a winter, but I know kids that have gone to Florida for the summer. That's what they do. They go to California, Florida, and they play
Just
beach
train.
all summer, and then come back and play
Yeah.
here. So it's like, that's a decision, and for them to not do these extra steps would be crazy, right? So for other athletes that are just even for adults, right? Like I find just doing this for my life has changed my life. Like in terms of like even this injury, like this Achilles injury, I'm getting over it way faster just because of some of the stuff I've been doing for the past year. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm 47, and after like 2 weeks, I'm almost limp free from an Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
So that's pretty whoa.
But you wouldn't have been injured had you
Been keeping it up.
Yeah.
I fell.
Right.
Work got
Right.
in the way. Life got in the way.
Yeah.
For about 2 months, I didn't work out the way I was, but I would have. It just would have been a fascinating experience because we came out of lockdown too, so we didn't have a lot of indoor volleyball here for a couple of years, which is like nuts.
Yeah.
So I don't know because I played beach all summer, pretty injury free, but then that indoor thing of pushing off. So I would have been fascinating if I kept this is life, right? If I only had kept it going, it would have been a fascinating experiment to see if it would happen. I got new shoes too, which changed my weird. I was feeling weird in those new shoes. My calves were getting tight. I was like, what the heck is this? And then the injury happened. But I can't wait. I'm kind of excited about hitting this recovery process once I can.
It's funny what injuries are like as an adult because it's, I guess when I was mid-20s, I was always worried like, oh, if I got an injury, I'm imagining like I'm done. I'm not playing the sport anymore. But now it's like, it's almost like
Wisdom.
a challenge, a fun challenge.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was excited very quickly after this injury.
Yeah.
To see if I could. I guess that's the comeback thing, right? Like
You're like,
that's
I'm
your
not
new-
going to let this get
That's
me
my
down.
new sport.
Yeah.
That's why, earlier episodes, I want to see how fat I can get, and then battle back. I want to battle back. That I create my. We talked about this actually. That what do you think? Eric and I spoke about this before once. About do you think that athletes, when they retire, they or even in their primes, sometimes they get out of shape. And all athletes, I think they stop training and then they go gangbusters again. Do you think that's from the cycle of competition?
Like when they're out of season.
Yeah.
There's
Or
one guy-
even like
You mean if they retire?
No, like
if they retire, even in the middle of their careers, like they might spend
true.
off season. You're right. Like they get out of shape. They'll eat like crap. Is that something where they want the challenge? Probably, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I know that for myself, when I have that next competition, that's what's motivating me to, train, to recover, to do those things that I know I should be doing because I know there's an impending date.
Yeah.
When there's no impending date and you have to create those for yourself of what's going to happen.
Shape.
Yeah, by getting out of shape.
That's so funny.
Well, I'm on a 30-year plan. So
Yeah, that's
my
right.
goal is to get out of shape for 30 years. I'm only on year 2.
and then do the ultimate comeback.
The
right?
ultimate comeback. I'm gathering all the equipment now, and I'm never using it. Yeah, mostly from infomercials. I find most of my health equipment from infomercials. 3 a.m. while I'm eating burritos. No, but yeah, recovery. There's so many things in recovery that we can talk about, and I think that we can put it. We're going to put together some stuff because a lot of parents ask us this stuff a lot, like in our real life and also through this. But so just simple workouts that even if kids can add some exercises, whether it's in a, even without a lot of equipment, and then if you mix in some of the recovery stuff that we're talking about, and you don't need the fancy equipment. It could be as simple as a cold shower and cold water in your bathtub, and work your way to dumping a few ice cubes in. Like that's all you need.
One thing I don't want to get left out on, which is a very simple thing that athletes can do, even especially with volleyball, is the cool down jog. After the match, you take 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and just quarter speed jog around, feel how your body is feeling, and then you'll know better what you need to be stretching, what you need to be looking at
Great point.
to make sure that you're ready for the next time.
That's a really good point. Let your body talk to you in that cool down time.
Yeah.
You see, that's
that's
something that's the number one thing young athletes don't do. They don't cool down. They leave their gym practice or tournaments. They go out in the cold weather, sometimes in their shorts, not even putting on a sweatshirt. And I always tell them, like, listen, if you don't want to be sore tomorrow, just take this 5 minutes. It's literally gold, right?
It is.
And nobody does it. And young players do get sore the next day. Like even the amount of volleyball that they're playing now is a lot, and they're training and they're in the weight room, and so if you can take that, that's a great. I love that you said that, Meech. That whole feel your body in the warm down jog.
Yeah,
and then stretch,
and continue to feel that.
Yes.
in your stretching. Like listen to your body, listen to what you need to be doing.
It's like your pre-analysis or pre-stretch analysis. It's kind of like your what's it called, the shavasana of your volleyball practice.
Yeah,
you know
and Shavasana, Eric, is
corpse pose.
Yeah, in yoga, right? Yoga.
Which is like the best part of the whole yoga class. I don't know if it's amazing.
You pass out usually.
Yeah, it's as soon as like the first time I got into yoga, I was like, this is literally the best part of yoga, and you have to do the corpse pose because it's just like all this weird stuff happens where like I would feel like my back, like all the space in my spine, like get longer, and then like you fall asleep or whatever. But it's so, and that's kind of what's going on. It's this internal kind of like reconnection to your body and stuff. That's what that cool down jog is.
And then even like taking it a step further, because Eric, you said the cool down stretch and holding it longer, and then even if you do need to add some ice or cold to part of your body, you will feel that after the stretching, and you might feel it better than if you just bundled up, went home, and then the next morning it'll be like, you can run your body through that cycle. The hot cold thing, it's almost like running the blood in and out preemptively.
Well, that's what they do. They do multiple cycles of it, right? What is it in Finland? That's a big thing or whatever.
Finland,
they go hot, cold, hot, cold.
There's Burger Kings in Finland with saunas in it.
The Burger King?
In the Burger King. That's how common. So Finland has been the center of the sauna, right? The sauna is the Finnish way of saying it. And I think there's some dispute as to whether or not it originated in Finland, but Finland has embraced it. And to the point where their fast food restaurants have saunas in them. Honestly, you can get your Burger King and go eat it in a sauna in the Burger King.
Wait, so they're so hardcore to eat food in the sauna?
Yes. Yeah.
Why do that? Why not keep this? Why not keep the sauna like
because it's
beautiful own thing?
Because they think that it should be done several times a day because it's
it's just nonstop.
I mean, longevity in Finland, you can't argue with it. It's we've had adult players like in their upper 70s playing in our leagues who were way better than people in their 50s. And he was very Finnish. And actually, the guy who built my sauna, the guy who sold me my sauna, is Finnish as well. Yeah. Wow. I said, like, are you Finnish? And he's like, yes, I am Finnish. I said, no. I mean, where's the damn sauna? Is it ready?
Yes, I'm Finnish.
Hey, don't do an accent. You can't do an accent. This is going out to the world.
Oh, yeah, I can do an accent. Why not?
Are you Finnish?
I have no idea
anyway,
what
that's
a Finnish accent
bad joke about Finland. But anyway, sauna, the culture of Finland, it's pretty, they've embraced it. And life expectancy is one of the, I think there's a blue zone in Finland. I'm not sure. Don't go away that, but
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, there probably is, but it just didn't make
Costa
that
Rica,
book. It didn't make the blue zone book.
Yeah, probably not. But anyway, so recovery, it doesn't have to be expensive. I like the point that you made that, Meech. Like you can do some simple stuff, recovery as simple as cooling down, stretching, like you said, Eric.
Did you guys ever
cold shower?
Cold shower. I guess this would be recovery, but not on the right after the sport, but maybe the next day. Like I've had some luck with, I don't know what you would call it, but like point pressure treatment, whether it's like a foam roller or like a lacrosse ball.
Yes.
Especially when I was like hardcore playing varsity, like muscle knots were a thing. And especially I would use the lacrosse ball, like pec minor and stuff like that. Oh man, that was so, and actually that worked very well in my warm up. I would get the shoulder warmed up, and then we actually had athletic therapists at the time, which was great because then they were able to do stretches, but you can mimic it with a lacrosse ball.
100%.
Right. And then for the game, it helped me a ton. Right. So
it's funny because you don't even know where your injury is. That's what I find with the pinpoint stuff. Mm-hmm. When you put the ball on, like you think your shoulder's sore and you can't really find it where, and then when you start rolling on that ball, you're like, whoa,
there it is.
There it is. Whoop.
Yeah,
that's right. So that's really cool. And what it's doing is it's applying pressure and squeezing out essentially all pain and soreness. It is scar tissue. With the
hot and cold, though,
yeah,
right?
it's the scar tissue, right?
Yeah, pressing it in, you take it off, right?
Well, what I've been doing with my Achilles. So like my Achilles is bad right now, so I've been rubbing the back of the Achilles, squeezing it, feeling where the bump is. I can feel a lump in there, and that is the scar tissue where it's recovering. All the blood has rushed to that area, and it's starting to build up in there. And if you don't clear that out, that's the long-term damage. That's why people can't use their ankle very well, their shoulder very well years down the road. So the hot and cold gets rid of that scar tissue, and it just sort of applies you're squeezing out that stuff and letting in, it's letting blood flood in and flood out. Because if you just let it build up, calcium build up with bone problems and then joints
Yeah.
and
That's what you're doing just because you're still moving on it. You're not using a cast, right? So by just using it every day, the muscle is lengthening and shortening.
And this is my we should point out, this is my specific
Right.
injury. Mine was not a full tear. So yeah, people don't listen to my example and not cast up. Listen
Right.
to yourself. But I found the cast was going to do more damage long term for me personally.
Yeah.
But I'm tougher than the average person.
I had my athletic therapist, when I had access to them, they described it to me as when you tear something like that, the scar tissue goes at it and it doesn't know directions, right? But by moving the muscle, it's like taking a bunch of toothpicks and then you rub them together. It actually gets them to line up in the direction of the muscle fiber.
Right. Like staining a piece of wood in the proper direction.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I was just
But
saying, let me let him finish and see.
There might be a little bit though too, in the right direction. Getting them all to go the right way.
Well, I think that's what you're doing because you haven't locked down your joint. You've allowed it to stay you're limping, but it's getting better, or the limp's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
But every day that you have been injured, that muscle has still been able to move just a little bit of amount, right?
Right.
So that way the scar tissue isn't bunching up too much to thus make it shorter.
Right.
Because you've still been exercising it a little bit longer and longer. Like in injuries I've had, for sure, I've experienced a loss of 2% joint mobility, or 2 to 5% or something, right?
Right.
You've rolled your ankle. I'm sure you have as well. We've all rolled our ankles. We've been playing volleyball. I've probably rolled it 3 times, but by still using it, I'm sure I've lost a little bit of mobility or something. But scar tissue is, your body's made up of that stuff. It's just connective tissue that's instead of how do you just? Well, we all know what it is.
It can pool up too, right? Because blood is rushing in to heal. If it's scar tissue, is literally a scar. It's like the same thing with a scab, but
it's the same stuff that makes up your tendons and ligaments, though, right? It's just there to fix the problem. It doesn't know the direction, but it's there. It's very strong.
And if you're not letting it out of the area or doing something if you're not letting it,
well, you want a certain amount to reconnect,
yes.
and then the excess you don't want to be built
stick
up.
around. Yes,
yeah.
That leads to the long term.
That's what it is. Yeah,
that's what my shoulder was for years. I found that, my shoulder surgery. I did yoga years later. A lot of weight training. It's only recently that I've sort of started this recent regimen where I've been able to be pain-free in my shoulder, which is nuts. In my late 40s, it wasn't in my prime. That was that young body thing even, right? It was still bad in my late 20s, all my early 30s. It wasn't until I started adding these tricks to really get it going. And I was trying a lot of things back then, but not this specific thing. So that's why that's what I mean about older players can really be a good resource.
Ayahuasca isn't really good for mobility, though.
Ayahuasca, the mushroom. Why do you always bring it back to mushrooms and your drugs?
No, but you said you were trying these crazy things when you were younger.
But I never tried that stuff.
Those aren't good for mobility.
Oh, but I wasn't trying those.
I'm sure you weren't.
No, I wasn't.
Sorry, America.
It's this facial hair. It makes me look like, no. I wasn't trying the light weights out. I was sticking with the old script of don't go past. Well, don't go past 90. Use heavy weights and stop here rather than light weights all the way down. Flexible stuff. Training in the uncomfortable areas of the joints. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. Or the weak. They were telling you not to go into the weak areas, and I think that we talk sort of a theme in this podcast is that we're talking about going into those areas which are stressful safely. Right, and carefully, and that's changed everything. And then mixing in the hot and cold. I think, like I said, we should put together the guide for parents because I think it's something that young athletes do need. Because I was I got injured. My first severe injury was 29. We're gonna do a whole show on injuries, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't getting better, even after surgery. And I wouldn't have done surgery probably today. Definitely wouldn't have done surgery.
Yeah.
But so I think that there's recovery tips. Recovery goes a long way, I think, to preventing. Actually, recovery can help prevent injury. Let's face it. Like if I was coming home rubbing my calf and Achilles every night after I felt that soreness with my shoes and doing some of the stretching and doing some of the exercises, it probably wouldn't happen. I fell off the sauna routine. I fell off the cold baths. I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, it was a bunch of things. Like you just working way too much and not sleeping a lot and
the stupid podcast.
and then it was a night where you felt good to go full out, right?
Yeah.
And then went for that full
probably
swing.
and again, we talked about lockdown, coming out of lockdown. I went right to two, 3 nights a week.
And coming out of beach, like coming out of like I always get, and it happens almost guaranteed now. I always get slight shin splints coming in from the beach, right? Just
I was your age too, and I got really bad shin splints. You know?
Yeah, like it's they're just low grade, but they're bad enough that like I tell myself, oh, I can push through the pain. I can jump.
They were
full.
brutal.
Your brain doesn't let you, man.
No.
Your brain's like, no, we're gonna give you 80%. That's it, and
that's why painkillers suck too. By the way,
totally,
because painkillers make you keep damaging the
Yeah.
area. Like, I used to take an Advil before I played. That's the other thing. I used to take an Advil every time before I played
That's
since I was
bad.
the age of 29.
Yeah.
all the way till about 40, and I've stopped. I don't need it, which
Numbs
is
you out.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So it was numbing me out, doing more damage without me doing. And then now, once I changed the routines and added in some things, it was pretty fascinating that I was able to ditch that. Kind of life saving, if you think about it, right?
Well, yeah.
Advil a couple of days a week.
Yeah, because that stuff can do a lot of hurt internally that you don't even know about on the others, your liver, your heart.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
it's kind of scary when you think of it. It's a mask.
Yeah.
Just popping pills all the time.
And it just lets you do more damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like your body's pain is what, like you were saying, listen to the body, and that tells you everything. And that's why same with this. Like, I think that putting on the air cast, I wouldn't have felt any pain, and that way you might have done stupid things. And also, it was throwing off my whole body. The air cast.
Yeah.
My other
right.
hip was killing me. My
Yeah.
back was killing me because the air cast wasn't allowing me to walk properly.
Of course.
And then I was researching, and it said that you're going to need blood thinners because it can cause, it can cause. I know
Yeah.
the air cast itself can cause, what do you call them?
Clots?
Clots, yeah, blood clots. And I was like, what?
As soon as I read that, I would be like,
was like,
okay,
no,
this thing's coming off.
I'm keeping this sucker moving, and
Yeah.
within the first the first 2 days I
That's
had the air cast
freaky.
on, my leg looked dead, swollen, so much pain. Took it off, put on a sleeve, iced it a bit, walked on it with a heel wedge to keep the heel elevated a little bit, not even high, just a little bit. And people would have said I was crazy because it was just a few days after the accident. But that night I went home, I iced it. I had to walk a lot that night, which was crazy. But I iced it that night. Woke up the next morning, pain pain was like very much gone. Ankle totally reduced in size. It looked like my other ankle, and the pain was vastly reduced. And ever since then, it's been every day. It's been better.
The elevation thing, I think you hinted on it, but that's a strategy.
Because if there is a cut in the tendon, you want the heel up, which makes sense because you mean elevation as
like as another. It all comes back to blood flow. It's just another mechanism to get blood out and back in, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did elevate. I did rest, by the way. Like I didn't go, if I didn't walk, I didn't have to, but I was able to drive fairly soon. No, like I'm serious, pain free.
Yeah.
And I tested it out and it was fine. And I think the mobility, right? It's great to immobilize when you need to, but it's hard. And if you're in an air cast, in my situation, I found when do I know that I can be mobile? You can't if you're in a cast for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the atrophy and the scar tissue problem becomes because of the cast, not because of the original injury. So I'm very much, the older I get, the more I'm into listening to the body and understanding, like Meech was saying too, like feeling where things need to be. And, if I, like that first night that I did walk a bit too much, this is like 3 days after the injury, I was like, okay, I'm icing it tonight for 10 minutes, on and off a few times, went to bed, woke up the next morning, no pain, or a lot less pain. And I can feel it reattaching, like you said, rubbing the tendon.
Yeah.
You can sense a lot. And if you don't train yourself to do that, if you are dependent on just the pills and other things, then you'll be numb to those feelings and you'll never learn the act of healing. So kids, at the end of practice, listen to your body. I think the best time, like Meech said, that's great. That cool down period is a great time to see what's sore.
Cool jog specifically.
Yeah, cool jog specifically.
Because like I said, the body in volleyball uses so much of the legs, because then you'll be hitting your calves, then you'll be hitting your quads, then you'll be hitting even your hips. And if you incorporate that with some like Eric said, some moderate arm swings as well, quarter speed, you'd be all good.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little hack that I think people are forgetting for the next day, right? So yeah, all right. I think that's pretty good. We don't want to get too far into We're gonna do a whole bunch of shows on different body parts and
Yeah, I think we over-answered the shit out of that
we answered the shit out of it. That's what we do here at Volleyball. We answer the shit out of your questions. And we didn't even talk about all the peripheral things that volleyball does, like your spine. Like my whole, we talked. My whole spine is out of whack from swinging on the right. For so many years. A lot of balance things that players do that can also be fixed by what we're talking about.
My right shoulder is so much bigger than my left.
Yes. Yeah, and the slouching.
Like the anterior delts. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Or no, posterior or whatever. The shoulder in general.
Yeah. Well, your right arm is much bigger than your left arm. We're not sure as to why.
Yeah.
This could be a variety of reasons.
Yeah, genetics.
Yeah. Full circle. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap that up. So that was like 7 or 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we did 6 or 7 questions. And we're going to do a part 2 to this because we do have a few more questions. So parents, if you are listening and you do have a question, yeah, we do have a lot more questions, but we will try to get to all of them. So if you are listening, parents, info@volleyballogy.org or through Facebook Volleyballogy, you can write in your questions and we'll try to get our best to get to them. And we might have to do a few of these episodes periodically, right? There's going to be once in a while we throw in a parents questions episodes because there's a lot of them.
I'm sure they'll build up.
All right, guys. Great job. And we'll see you next week. This is episode 11. And I guess it's episode 12 next time.
Hopefully.
See how I did that in my head?
Right.
Math. Quick math.
Not just a hat rack.
What's the big idea?